For the past several years, the United States Senate has almost always done the exact opposite of what most Americans want. Take the question of making our tax system more fair. A recent poll by Pew Research Center found that 80% of Americans say it bothers them that some wealthy people don't pay their fair share in taxes, and 60% say it bothers them a lot. Only 19% said it bothered them not too much or not at all. Meanwhile, here's the view that prevails in the United States Senate.
I think it's hard to take much more from people at the top.
Another example, global climate change, perhaps the greatest threat humanity has ever faced. Do Americans support policies to dramatically reduce our use of fossil fuels to bring down greenhouse gas emissions? In a recent Gallup poll, 60% said yes. Only 36% said no. And here, on the other hand, is an example of the kind of thinking that guides the Senate.
Excluding fossil fuels would snuff out the bright lights of Americans' prosperity. It would threaten national security, it would threaten jobs, it would threaten our independence from foreign energy and all of Americans' higher standard of living.
So what's going on here? Why does the Senate so brazenly defy the will of the people? The reason is that our election system allows a minority of voters who happen to disagree with the majority about almost every important issue to choose a majority of the members of the Senate. At Democratism, we're working to change that so that the Senate will become capable of serving the will of the people. This video is about one small aspect of that, which is just to show specifically, with numbers of votes, that the wrong party controls the Senate right now. To draw a comparison to our most recent presidential election, most people understand the people chose her to be president. She should be president, not him. It doesn't matter whether you like her or you like him. Many voters disliked both of them. The American people chose her over him. All you have to do to see this is count the votes. It's the same situation with the Senate. Yes, there's just one president and there are 100 senators, and we vote all at once for the president, whereas Senate terms are staggered. So it takes a couple of extra steps to see it. But the upshot is just as simple. The people chose this group to run the Senate. They should run the Senate, not this group. All you have to do is count the votes. Now you may say, well, the American people don't choose the Senate, the states do. And that's true, and the states choose the president too. And just like for the presidency, that violates the basic democratic principle that we, the people, should choose our leaders. The point of this video is to show exactly how far into anti-democracy this violation of democratic principle has actually taken us in the current Senate. And to do that, we need to see what the American people actually voted for. So we're going to count the votes. And as we do, keep in mind that this isn't an issue about which party you personally prefer. We're going to be counting the votes that the candidates of each major party received. But the underlying issue isn't about party. It's about democracy. It's about the right of the people to choose our leaders. So here we go. The current Senate was produced by 30 state elections on Election Day in 2014, 34 in 2016, and 35 in 2018, including 3 that were actually decided in runoff elections shortly after those dates, as well as a special election in Alabama in 2017. One elected senator, John McCain of Arizona, died while in office, and the currently serving senator was appointed by the governor of Arizona. That doesn't affect our tally. We'll count the votes of the people of Arizona in the Arizona election. 100 elections, 50 states, each electing 2 senators. When you add up all the votes for all the Democratic candidates, including 2 independents who caucus with the Democrats, and all the votes for all the Republican candidates, you get 123.6 million votes for the Democrats and 96.4 million for the Republicans. But we're not quite done. We do need to make just one adjustment having to do with the frequently exceptional state of California. California has primary elections among candidates from all parties, and then only the top 2 candidates in the primary run in the general election on the national election day. And in both 2016 and 2018, both of the top 2 candidates were Democrats. So all of California's 23 million votes for Senate went to Democrats. Now, California is heavily Democratic, but if there had been Republican candidates, some Californians would have voted for them. So we need to make an adjustment to get what the people of California would have wanted. A fair way to estimate how much of the vote would have gone to each party is to look at the Democratic-Republican vote breakdown in the last 2 presidential elections. If we take the average of those, it gives us a good estimate of voter preference in California. 64% for Democrats and 36% for Republicans. And if we apply that breakdown to the Senate elections, the result is we're going to move 8.4 million votes from the Democratic count to the Republicans. And if we apply that to the whole Senate, we get 115.2 million votes for Democratic candidates and 104.8 million for Republicans. And that's where we land. More than a 10 million vote difference. There's really nothing debatable about this that could affect anything more than a small portion of the vote. The people spoke, and you're looking at what they said. If the Senate followed the essential principle of democracy, that the people should choose their leaders, then the Democrats would control the Senate with 52 seats. But that's not what we have. What we actually have is that the Republicans control with 53 seats. The opposite of what the people decided. And unfortunately, this isn't some kind of rarity. This is the 3rd election cycle in a row that's come out wrong like this. Okay, in other videos and posts, we'll talk about the underlying flaw that causes this breakdown in democracy, the colossal consequences of it, and most important, what we can do to change it. Please share this one, subscribe, and go to the Democratism website to get involved. Thanks a lot.